Welcome guys to another video. I am actually in the greenhouse now because it's pissing it down outside, but I wanted to get this tree done today, so apologies if my voice might sound a little more echoey than normal, but I recently got this delivered. This is a beech tree. You've probably seen it if you saw my community tab that I put on. It's got a nice massive, it came from a hedge. It's a Yamadori kind of thing. You know, just my fingers don't even fit around it. But no, it's been in apparently dug out a couple of years ago when I asked the guy who sold it to me. But it's a lovely kind of leaning style. It's got a massive root that comes out here that really helps with that style. But today I wanted to take this out of this pot and see how many little fibrous roots we have on it, because hopefully if it's been in there for, I don't know, 2 years, then it should have enough on it. And I know a lot of people might say, oh, leave it in this pot while you develop it, but quite a lot of these branches, if you can see, are actually quite thick as it is. So what I want to do is put it into this bonsai pot, which I recently fixed up. You see how it goes, but it's quite a fairly sized bonsai pot, and I think it will suit this tree. I'll try and leave on as much root as possible, obviously, and yeah, we'll go from there basically. And then I'll try and wire out some of these branches, take some of them off, like these ones here facing forwards. We don't want these. This will kind of be the front here, so it kind of leaning to the side, but you're coming in at a slight angle here, because then we can utilize this branch hopefully here, and then we've got this one around the back. There's a nice big one here, and then there's two here that we can decide which one we want to keep, and then so on and so forth. Up at the top, it's a bit ugly with this stub. I don't know if I'll do it today, but at some point I might kind of try and cut it down to about that angle, and then this one here can be the new leader. I'll try and bend this up as much as I can, and that should hopefully be the new leader. But anyway, I'll set the tripod up, and then we'll get to unraveling these roots. Alright guys, so hopefully you can see this enough. I've managed to get it out of the pot. I'll just get some tools out already. Managed to get it out of the pot. It came out very easily actually. It's not root bound at all, so I see why people might say I should leave it in there. But as I'm not aiming to necessarily create thickness, I just wanted to take it out, put it in its bonsai pot, and then basically just work on the branches, because beech trees, as I kind of figured from my job, are actually quite strong growers really. They're quite good growing trees. So hopefully I'm getting this all on video, and I'll try not to block you with my arm. But we've got a couple, it's a weird selection of roots. Try and unravel them slightly. The guy that I got it from said it came out of quite clay soil. It was like leaf and kind of dead plant matter on top of the soil, so there's a lot of thin roots apparently on, when he dug it up, at least on the top, and then down the bottom was all the thick roots, and he seemed to say that he'd done most of the thick root work when he dug it up, which is obviously good. And then we're just left with this kind of, it's got a very nice base to it actually. I really like the root structure on this. It's quite nice and flat. He has trimmed it well. I'm just trying to get basically all of this soil off, because it's clay. You put it in some free draining, quite a good soil, kind of a mix I think between his bonsai soil and compost. So let's turn it around. We've got a little Little indent here, just trying to get out all the mud. Because if we can, I'd like to, you know, we don't want wood sitting under wood and rotting if we don't need to risk that at all. But look at the size of this nice big root on this side. This is great. I'll get this off and then we'll have a look at trying to just, all I'm going to do is I will trim the roots as much as I need to fit it into that pot. So I'll probably be taking off the ends of these big roots, but as much as I can keep, I will try and keep, because quite frankly, I really don't want to take off too much root. It needs to grow. There's a couple bits like under here, seem to be somewhat rotted or dead bits. Take those off. But that has got a lot of lovely fibrous roots on it. I think it's going to create a really nice bonsai, this, to be honest. It's got a really nice thick trunk. All I've got to really do is, I suppose you can kind of see with the branches, he's somewhat developed them as after he's picked up over the 2 years he's had it, not refined them, wired them or any sorts, he's just let them grow and periodically pruned them. So they're all, it's got some nice ramification to it already that I can start my my build on. But anyway, I'll clear this up quickly and then we'll get the bonsai put over here, and we'll put it together. Alright guys, so I have put all the wiring in the pot and the mesh bits, so cut this out because you've probably done or seen it many times, you don't need to see me doing it. So I'm gonna get the tree, my tools up there for now. Now these are a lot, so if we want the tree to be something like this, so we're going to have to take off quite a few of these really thick, the ends of these really thick stump ones, unfortunately. With the secateurs, one because they'll cut more easily, and two, nice cleaner cut for the plant. So this, I think we'll be able to tuck around, tuck all these into the middle here, get them all in. This is going to be an issue, this one, unfortunately. It's not going to bend, so I'm going to have to take that off, which is a real shame. This one down here, I'm going to have to take off this. We've got to make sure we keep that in the pot. Maybe push this over to this side if we can. No, it's not going to go. We're going to have to go down here with this. Push it through here. Now this here, unfortunately, is going to have to go. That fell through the table. It's going to be a pretty tight fit, this, unfortunately, but should be all right. We'll be fertilising this heavily in the next coming months, just so we can as I've already taken off the stuff and that in there, we might as well clean that end up a little bit like that. Don't want to go too far down because we don't want to affect these two roots or anything. But yeah, I think that will be good like that is, like that. Just going to tie this in quick. This is actually it's the biggest, don't have any wire kind of pincer things, unfortunately. So that's going to hold that in like that. Okay, right, I can step back now. This is the biggest piece of material I've actually ever worked on. It's got a lot of root in there still, which is lovely. It is going to be quite proud. So maybe I should have gone with a bigger pot, I suppose, but I don't have a bigger pot. So I'm going to make this work. I'm going to make it work. All of these little roots here I need to get down under into the pot. And we'll start filling it. I'm going to have to buy some new load of soil after doing this thing. So put some soil around it, just loosely. And make sure we fill all of the gaps up. Sorry if this is going to be a bit of a long video. I may end up cutting just the more boring parts of it, just to make it better on you guys, so you haven't got a stupidly long video to watch. Because some of these videos can be quite long sometimes when you're doing repottings. Anyway, I'm just gonna, as you guys know, you've all done it, go through and make sure that I fill all of those holes, fill up all those air pockets in the bottom of the tree. Fill up all of those fibrous roots. We want them in the soil and growing. You're gonna have to mound the soil up a little bit on this side, unfortunately. This root does protrude a bit more than I'd like, ideally. It's a shame I don't really have any proper pliers, because I'd love to be able to tighten that just a little bit more. I mean, it's holding it in, so it's doing its job now. So make sure we cover all of this. I know people don't always like trees that kind of come out of the pot. I'm not too bothered. I've got a couple that do, my Korean hornbeam does. That's very high up in its pot. For now it's going to be alright. Come next year we will, or I will even, make sure that they are maybe put into slightly bigger ones if need be. With this one it depends. If we get lots of fibrous roots coming out of this tree, we're going to be able to maybe take off some of these bigger bits. Just give you a little zoom around of the tree. All I'm going to be doing is giving it a very light trim. I might not even wire it this year, or I might do that later on. I'm not sure, to be honest. But I think that fits quite nicely in that pot. It's going to be a nice big tree. There's a lot of room in there, so it's got plenty of space to fill it up. I will definitely check it next year though. It's not going to be one that I leave for a couple of years. I will check the roots next year, because I want to make sure that they're still growing and producing roots. But it's got such a nice bit of exposed. There's a little issue down there, maybe a little bit of a dent in the root. That's probably from when he first collected it. Nothing major is being exposed, which is nice. Only the roots that I want to be exposed. But yeah, so I'll just tidy this up a little bit more, and then we'll get around to doing some trimming, just very light trimming. Alright guys, so last part of the video before I go and give it a nice water and set it out for the year is I just want to do a bit of branch selection and a little branch trimming just before it buds. So we're going to start down at the bottom. This is our first branch here. It's got, unfortunately, a weird kind of downward bend, but I think we can probably push it out. But what I want to do is, it's a bit long, and as we've reduced some roots, I want to slightly reduce the foliage on it. So we're going to take that down to there. We're just going to bring back just a little bit these side branches back to the buds. I want to leave it relatively long because obviously we've got to thicken up the trunk still on these bits, but I don't want to do massive quick thickening obviously, because I want to be able to wire it at some point. So the next few probably going to be, maybe you can see it, just move the camera up, going to be these two on the front here. They're coming directly out the front, and quite frankly I don't want anything coming directly towards us with a little bud there. So we got this one here, we've got a branch here. This one I'm not sure about really. We've got a big long one around the back here, which I think we can leave for now. Hopefully you might be able to see it here. Just going to trim this back to there, so it's slightly shorter, and hopefully we'll get some back budding on that branch. I'm actually going to give it a little more trimming. Now we've got this branch up here. This is quite a hefty one. So I've got to make sure, cut this back definitely. Right back. I know it won't be necessarily all the branches properly ramified as you might want them, but I think that's quite a nice. Hopefully you can see that. I'll give you a look around in a minute once I've done the trim, a closer look at everything I've done. Just cut that bit off there. We'll put some cut paste in all of these obviously. Let's move the camera up a bit to the top of the tree. It's a bit too high. So if this is going to possibly be our new leader, for now we're going to leave the top. There is a chance, I suppose, that this branch here could become the new leader, and you could take off this one and this one and this one, and then develop this one from around the back into this section, which leads up nicely into the apex here. That could be an option at some point in the future, but considering how much we've just done to the tree, i.e. a little bit of root cuttings and stuff like that, I do want to leave it for now. Now this one here, we've got a little bit growing in the elbow between the trunk and the branch, so we don't want that one. So we got this one here, this one, up to this one. I like this one if we maybe push it outwards a little bit like this. This back one, I don't know what I want to do with that yet, quite frankly, so what I'm going to do is just going to cut it back, get some more development out on it, and then we'll see next year when it comes to it what we're going to do. Now we've got two trunks here, which are they're not coming out necessarily the same point, but one's a little further around the back, but really I don't want both of them, because that's just going to create complications within the tree. This one's coming out quite far forward, so I think I'm going to take that one off, so we don't want to get any inverse taper and bulging out. And then we'll use this one, and then this one up here, like I said just a minute ago, we'll just take it back to a healthy pair of buds. there is actually a little bud here, right up at the top. So we might be able to develop a new branch, and that maybe could become the leader, and this one we can shorten right back down. That is another option. If I come around to the front here, zoom out a little bit, I think that's a nice start to a good looking beech tree. And obviously beech trees are quite hardy, really. So come the end of summer, I'll let it grow out completely all spring, maybe with an occasional light trim, but we'll more or less let it grow, feed it, and then right at the end of summer, just as the growing season's ending, I'll give it a little trim, and then we'll maybe do a more stronger trim in the winter or in the spring this time next year. But anyway, sorry for the long video. I'll try and edit it down of all the unuseless part where I mumbled and shit like that as much as possible. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one.